in presentation mode.
You click on that icing where we have the zoom. Okay.
So what we're going to do is
Headsets are not clear, Joseph.
let me first start them in well. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please, that's better.
So what we're going to be looking at is installing a Business Central development environment. So I'll just start. Want to be fast. So from the documentation, Business Central is a cloud-based ERP solution. So the base application source code cannot be modified. So the customization is done through extensions which safely or enhance the application functionality. So basically, through the extensions we do make, we are just enhancing the functionality of Business Central, but the base application source code cannot be modified. From the Microsoft documentation, VS Code is the official development environment for Business Central. And for Business Central, for you to make any modifications, you have to go through the AL programming language, application language, which is used to manage the data, create, read, and update records, building application objects like pages, reports, code units, and then controlling business logic and system behavior. Let's move to the next slide. So, like I mentioned to you, that VS Code is the official development environment for Business Central. I just put in some of this information, like when it was launched and on which platform does it run. So it runs both on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. It's different from Microsoft, the Visual Studio, which is used for largely .NET solutions. And now go to the next. So AL is, like I've explained in the first slide, used to create and access objects, writing business logic, and building extensions. So I just want now to go to the extensions, the VS Code extensions. So VS Code has extensions, so which are small packages extending the standard functionality of VS Code. So you installing like an extension for Business Central on VS Code. It's just like enhancing the functionality of VS Code. Yes. So Microsoft provides an extension that enables Business Central development inside VS Code. So from the definition I've given you up there for the Visual Studio Code or VS Code has an extension that we all use to enable us to be able to develop RL extensions for Business Central. I'll move on to the next slide. Okay. So we're going to now look at some of the VS Code features. One can be exploring, viewing, and managing project files, finding and replacing text across files, Git integration, plus other extensions. Yeah. So running tests and debugging code, and installing tools like Aniel extension. So these are some of the features of VS Code, things you can do with Visual Studio Code. So Business Central, I'm not going to go because first we'll be looking at the tools you can use to just start the AL development, which is the VS Code. Now we're going to look at AL and the objects basically. So Business Central is built on one database, on a database that stores both the business data, which can be customers, vendors, items, and then also the application objects, which can be pages, tables, and reports. So all these are in the database. So pages and layouts are also stored in the database, allowing quick changes without rebuilding the whole system. So all this information is stored in the database. Solutions are created using objects, including tables. So tables are used to describing how the data is stored and how it's retrieved. Pages enable users to view, add, modify, and delete records. Then we have reports, printing, processing, and previewing data. Then code units contain, okay, like just a container programming code. Now, like where I put our functions, and then those code units are called from other objects to complete a specific task. So, like we have the calculate payroll code unit, where we write a number of functions and then we access them on the different pages. Then there's this query, and something that I haven't used, but I don't know whether any of you have used it. It's also included. The relational data model for direct and efficient query of the underlying the underlying database. It's something that I've not used before. I don't know whether anyone maybe used it here on the team. Then we have the XML ports for importing or exporting data in XML text, in XML or text format. So, and just move on to the next, where I will show the image of how the data is stored. Just okay, okay, keep it off. Okay, just continue this. So extension. So we have also extension object types. So we have looked at the pages. We will have the pages, tables, code units, XML ports, but then from those we can make extensions. So developers customize Business Central using table extensions, page extensions, and then report extensions. These extend the existing functionality without modifying the Microsoft base code. Yeah. Then logical database structure that will explain what I was talking about of how the data is stored. So a single company contains multiple companies. Each company has its own records and data, but objects are shared across all companies. Data is company specific, but objects are global. Okay. So this is the image that I was talking about, where it shows you the objects, the database level, like they are stored globally, and then you have the company data, where you see the arrow showing data, and then we have the tables, and then the records, and then the fields. So like I've seen there say that the company data is specific to that company, but the objects are global. Then can move on to the next. So managing objects in Microsoft Business Central. Yes.
As we move on, based on that diagram that you've shared, yeah, we can think of answering a question of this sort, whether we can have extensions that are specific to a company. Yeah? You might not answer it now, but as we go towards the presentation, it is something that I would like the team to answer, whether it is possible to have company-specific extensions.
Okay. Okay. Shall we look at it? So we're looking at managing objects in Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. So every object, objects have like tables, pages, reports, coordinates. They have a unique ID. So some of those objects ID, like I said, they have a unique ID. Object numbering helps, so it helps you in the following that I've mentioned here. Version management, localization, and then customization, and then smooth upgrades. I think some of face some of these challenges when we're doing like upgrades, and we are facing some challenges with the IDs. So I can just move on to the next. So we have the object ranges. Let me just move to just talk about it here briefly, but I have another slide that explains it more. So we have these object ranges from 0 to that. It's for the Microsoft based objects, and they're not usable. You can't use them. Then from 50,000 to that for customizations and training and sandbox. Then we have from 10,000 to that. These ones are used for they are specific to regions. I can just move to the next slide that explains it to them better. So like I was saying, from 0, this range is assigned to Business Central based applications functionality and must not be used in any extension or customization. So these are IDs that you cannot use. Then we have the 5,000 to that. This range is for customization and testing purposes for Business Central Online. A partner can develop an extension tailored to an individual tenant to fit its needs. So we have used such a range like this on Roam. We have used this such a range on, I think, also NEMA. Then we have this 100,000 to that. Then for this one, the objects in this range are designed when the Microsoft team localizes Business Central for a specific country or region. These objects cannot be used by partners. Okay. Then we have this one where the HRP range folds the 1 million to that, because I think we used the 51 million range. So this one is used by the Microsoft, used by partners to build extensions for Business Central online or on-prem. So for online development, these extensions are distributed to the Microsoft App Store. For this one, the documentation says this, but from some interaction I had with Lambert one time, and then he mentioned that first okay, when they were doing the payroll, making it making it ready to go through the App Store, it was they had to switch, and then they go to this range of the 50,000 range, which didn't make sense. What I found in the documentation. So we have some questions. I just try to open. If I stop sharing and then I share that. So I have it in my screen. So this link, yes, so we're going to look at some of the questions that are there. So the first one is VS Code supports integration with version control systems. Which version control system is built in? So you have Team Foundation version control, Git, Subversion, and then CVS. So version control, okay. Magova says it's Git. Yeah, I also go with Git. So then we have another question. Which object types do you use? Give users the ability to view and enter information in Business Central. Pages, tables, reports, XML ports, or queries. So I think I'll go with page. Then we have which object numbers should be used by Microsoft partners to create new objects that are used in customizations. We have this one here. That's one. I think the answer is the third one. Okay, mark please. So we can check answer.
Okay.
All right. Yes.
Before we proceed, I think we can hear from the team. There are those two object ranges that are still confusing. The first one is the 50,000 range. The one if you go to that last question, which is used by Microsoft partners, but we also have the other million range. If you just go back to your slide, you mentioned about also a million range that is also used by partners. So what I would like the team to help us understand, under what circumstances do I use the 50,000 range as a partner, and when do I use the 1 million range? Yeah, I don't know whether there is any person who can give us some more information on that?
Or we can check the documentation and see.
Joseph, I would think logically. Based on the flow, if you are using on-premise and you are using cloud, with the on-premise as HRP, we used to have a range, 51 million range supported on-premise, and that would be supported by even our license. You'd find that as HRP in a certain agreement with Microsoft, and they allocated that range of 51 million to be used on all our licenses, customization. So you'll find that on-premise, it is okay. However, all other partners who may not have the same arrangement with Microsoft, they are eligible to customize from the 50,000 range to the 99 as a bare minimum. Because even the partnership with Microsoft comes at levels. There's silver, there's gold, then there's platinum, then there's ISP. So if you are just a starter, the range is 50,000. But if you have specific solutions you have and you don't want them to be all the sudden sneaked out by other partners, you give them a specific range, and that range, it is designated to HRP by Microsoft. It is allocated to HRP in that format. That's for on-premise. So for the cloud, you may find that as a standard still, any customization falls within the range of 50,000. But in case you ever want to have your solution specific, that this is a solution with signature being HRP, you want to deploy it to the app source or to the market store, you'll find that when the other client or the user or any other client is trying to get that solution, most of the cases, the 50,000 range is used up by other customization. So whatever is to be put on the app source, it's always expected to be outside the developed range of already your existing solution. An example, we had a case with Mildmain. There's an app called Data Editor. It was just downloaded from the store, but may find that all the ranges of the objects in that app were conflicting with already the ranges we had if you use 50,000. So you find that you give it a range that you find is supported by your license. But because online is no longer restricted by the objects you are using, as long as you have a subscription, it is expected that anything you download from the app source should be outside your already existing custom ranges, which as a standard, they are from 50,000 to 99. So for any other custom solution somebody is likely to get from the standard, from the app source, it should be outside already your existing range for you to use it as a plug and play. That's what I would think.
Okay, thank you, John. I think if you've displayed this slide, I think we shall, as a team, I encourage you to go back and try to read, because there's also that range from 70,000 to 75,000 that I didn't see in your presentation. But for the interest of time, those who need more information will go back and read. Perhaps we can still come back in other presentations to come and throw more light on that. But for now, let's proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So we have looked at the ID. Also done this. So now we're going to go to creating Business Central extensions in VS Code. So all functionality in Microsoft Business, all functionality in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, like I mentioned, is built on objects, and the objects I mentioned them in the last slide. So to customize the system, developers create extensions. So extensions can be, you can create a new extension or extend an, or no, you can create a new object or extend an existing object in an extension. So just I talked about this. Then now we have AL objects and files. Business Central uses AL, which is application language, and each object is stored in a .al file. So best practice is have one per file, meaning the object. If you're dealing with page, I put the pages. You put a page and then that one AL file. So when you compile, an AL project produces a .app package. Then the .app file is deployed to Business Central or published to the Microsoft App Store. So we have done this where you build and then you're going to deploy and then you upload a .app file when you're publishing on clients like Chrome, also Runner Group. Okay. So the development environment, I talked about the VS Code, and then now for the development environment, also have like extensions. VS Code extension that I talked about, which enhance the VS Code. So the development environment use VS Code, which provides the following: code editing, you're able to publish, debug, and then directly integrate with Business Central. I've seen some functions somewhere where you inspect and then you open, I think, directly to VS Code. I don't know if anyone has also seen that. Well, I haven't tried it. So steps of creating an creating a new AL extension. So these are steps that we've been doing, and I may not go much. Open VS Code, then you Control Shift B, you run AL :go, and then choose the project folder, then select the Business Central version. Choose environment, whether it's going to be cloud or on-prem. In the documentation, they talk about things like Docker, but we haven't used them. You can select on-prem or cloud, and then the sign credentials. So I talked about the .app file. So VS Code download symbols, usually download symbols, and then they'll be having a .app file or app file that describes the existing objects, so stored in the .al package folder. So we usually when you download symbols, you find your folder having those files basing on what you extended, what you basing on the existing objects in Business Central, on the existing extension Business Central. So you can download symbols, and then you have like budget monitoring, payroll. So I can just come down here. Then these include the application file, the base file, the system application, and then the business foundation. I think with one of the previous presenters talked about those different apps. So this, if you do not download symbols, you can just run this to download symbols. So then working with JSON files. So in the AL extension, we have JSON files, which JSON files stand for JavaScript Object Notation. So these include app.json and launch.json. So JSON files are lightweight formats of storing and transferring data. So these files are created automatically when you create a new AL project. So I think these are files I've already seen, that app.json, launch.json. Can then move on to the next. So I can now breaking down this, the launch.json. This defines where and how your extension runs during testing. Controls which server is used, or local. So this one can put in your, whether you're targeting your local computer or you're dealing with sandbox. Specifies which objects open when debugging starts. So we have these property, can put a startup object type or startup object ID. So we usually put this 22, which opens up a customer list. So you can change this to your own page ID if you want. Then we can go to the app.json, which contains the metadata of your extension, which includes the app name, the publisher, which usually use HRP, and then HRP solutions. Then we use that. You can also put the dependencies, the target environment, and then we have the unique app ID. So usually the unique app ID is also generated on creation of the extension. Okay. So the app ID is like the unique identifier of that extension in the app.json. So rules, the app ID is automatically generated when you create a new project. So if you copy a project, okay, you can copy that ID. First, sometimes when you copy maybe like an app.json, and then you forget to change the ID. So you always have to change that ID and create a new one. Then we have sections where I've talked about the name and the published changes. So there's something, the documentation that they mentioned, since from Business Central 2021 Wave 2, the name and the publisher are not part of the app identifier, so they can be changed. That is on once, but then before you could change them. No, you could not change them from before 2021 and Wave 2. Like before that, you could not you could not change the name and the publisher in case you had already created that extension. Okay. So here I just put that detail here. If you're targeting only Business Central 2021 release Web 2 or later, the name of an app and the publisher of the app, the name of the app and the publisher of the app can be changed at any point. Also, after it has been published, if the name is changed, the version must be incremented as well. So these are some of the things that were being where you publish maybe like to Rome and then you have to change the ID, no, changing the version. But here in the documentation, they say that even if you change, if you change the name and the app ID, you will always have to also change the ID, the version, sorry. So if you are targeting versions of Business Central prior to 2021 release Wave 2, then the name and the publisher of the app cannot be changed after it has been published. I don't know if anyone has faced maybe this. And just go on to the next slide. Then the next part is configuring the AL language extension. Let me just. I wasn't able to get questions that are enough on this section here. I don't know whether Mark, you have any questions that I tried to look through, but as if that module is limited to, it had only the other questions that we have looked at.
Not for now. Maybe we shall see. We shall look at the dump set again, after going through everything.
Okay. So for this section, I think I'll show it in the next presentation because it's a last section on what I was supposed to present. But for now, that's what I had for you guys.
Right. Thank you, Joseph,
Yes.
for that presentation. I think it has been straightforward, given that these are some of the things that we worked with for some time. The homework that I'm giving each one of us is to go back and